Good afternoon, church. Pastor Craig here once again with a midweek greeting. Happy Wednesday to you. I'm standing out beside the church because I want to show you a couple things that have something in common. The toque that I'm wearing and the greenhouse that you can see just over my shoulder just there. Now, I was trying to think, what might people think as those two things having in common? Some might say, well, the toque, it keeps your bald head warm. Yeah, it does cover my head and keep it warm. And the greenhouse, it covers plants and keeps them warm as well. But that's not what I was thinking about. What I was thinking about has something to do with prayer. This Sunday, as we take a look at continuing through the book of Ephesians, we're going to take a look at Ephesians chapter 1, verses 15 through to the end of the chapter. And it's a passage that actually records a prayer that Paul has for the church of Ephesus. And he starts out by saying, "For this reason, since I've heard about you and your faith, I have not stopped giving thanks for you and praying for you." Now, I don't know about you, but when I read that, I'm thinking, that's a slight exaggeration, isn't it? I have not stopped praying for you. I have not stopped giving thanks for you. Like, come on, Paul, 24/7, that's what you're doing? Then I was reminded of another verse, 1 Thessalonians 5, verse 7, which tells us that we are to pray continually, or some translations say, pray without ceasing. What does it mean to pray without ceasing? You know, if praying without ceasing meant you were nonstop supposed to have your head bowed and your eyes closed, that would be fairly problematic and at times unsafe. Trust me, I have tried as a child riding my bicycle, bowing my head and closing my eyes to pray while riding the bicycle. Let's just say it's amazing how quickly you come upon a parked car when your eyes are closed and your head's bowed while you're riding your bike. It doesn't mean that we need to continually walk around with our heads bowed and our eyes closed, but rather pray continually, or the way in which Paul can say, I have not stopped praying for you, is to be in an attitude of prayer. Being open to just continually conversing with God throughout the day. And sometimes God uses different things to remind us of things that we can pray for. See, that's what this toque and the greenhouse behind me have in common. This particular toque, I got it when I was visiting friends of ours that are international workers overseas, and they serve in a community where they were involved in business. They weren't preachers and pastors. They were just hanging out, doing life with those that live in the community. And there were many others who were doing a similar thing, involved in business for purpose. And the purpose was simply to model Christ's love and to be Christ's hands and feet to the community as they ran their business, to model integrity in how they ran the business, to truly love and care for people in their business, their employees, but also those in the community. And in doing so, to allow people to see God's love demonstrated in practical ways, which then would lead to conversations about God, which ultimately would lead to people coming to receive God's love and forgiveness, and down the road come to lead to a church being planted in the community. Who knows what God would have in store? It's a really cool way of doing ministry and really something that we all should be doing. But anyways, back to the main point of what I was trying to say. One of the businesses that some of their friends were involved in involved having local villagers hired to harvest yak wool. Yes, I say harvest because you actually have to pick it up. It gets caught in the bushes and stuff, and you don't shear a yak. You pick up all the wool that they shed. And then they would hire other people to spin the wool and to dye the wool. Then they'd hire other people to knit them into all different things. And then they would sell them, and all of the money would go back to the community. And it was providing a source of employment for the community, providing kind of an identity for the community, and giving them something to look forward to, really, in this small rural community. Well, while I was there, I bought this toque, partly as a souvenir, but also partly because it's a prayer reminder for me. When I put on this toque or somebody comments about this toque, it's an opportunity for me to remember my friends and just simply to offer up a prayer to them of, Lord, bless them. Lord, be with them. Lord, guide them. Lord, direct them. Whatever God lays on my heart. But it's the toque that can remind me of that. Now, what does the greenhouse have to do with that? Well, I just recently found out that a member of my extended family works at a greenhouse where they have a massive assembly line and they make all the different plants that are sold in all different stores. And so one day she might be making hundreds of hanging baskets, and another day she's putting together potted plants. And the greenhouse behind me is one of the places that sells the plants that she is involved in making. They buy their plants from the company that she works for. And I thought, that's a cool reminder for me. Because now when I see that greenhouse, I don't just think of the wind that blew it down this winter or think of what might be going on inside it. It's a reminder of a family member of mine. And I can just lift up to the Lord a prayer of blessing for her. Lord, be with her today. Lord, guide and direct her. May your presence be very real to her, whatever it is that God lays on my heart to pray. You see, that's how we continually pray. It's not that my head is always bowed. It's not that my eyes are always closed, but it's always being open to God's prompting to lift up to Him the needs of others and to be listening to God, continually in conversation with Him. That's what prayer is. So I would invite you this Sunday to take part in the service, and we're going to take a look at that passage, and we'll learn something not so much about prayer itself, but about what God specifically says and how He prays for the church at Ephesus. You might want to read that passage in advance, actually. You might find that helpful. Ephesians chapter 1, beginning at verse 15 and going through to the end of the passage. But even if you're not going to be able to take part in the service, I hope that this midweek greeting is a reminder to pray continually, or as Paul says, to not stop praying. May God help us to hear His promptings and to respond obediently and to pray when we're prompted. But maybe those promptings will lead to more than just praying. Maybe it'll be picking up the phone and calling somebody. Maybe it'll be getting together for coffee with somebody. Maybe it'll be doing the old-fashioned thing of writing a letter and dropping it in the mail. Whatever it is, may we be open to God's promptings and leadings, and may we continually be in an attitude of prayer. There's a few thoughts I thought I'd share with you this week as I've been preparing for Sunday. I look forward to worshiping with you on Sunday. And in the meantime, I'd encourage us all to go and be the church God has called us to be, intentionally becoming people who embrace and reveal God's love. Have a great week, church.